Now that we have our dialog box working, next step is to pass in our user's profile data into this dialog box and populate these input fields with the user's information. In this video, we'll walk through how to pass data from our parent component, in this case the user profile manager component, and that's the name and the bio, into our dialog component. Let's head over to the Angular material documentation and see how this is done. On the left, I have the dialog component selected, and then under the overview tab, if you scroll down or if you go to the link on the right here, sharing data with a dialog component, select that. And in these two examples here, these two snippets, this is exactly what we're trying to implement in this video. Here within the parent component, and that's our user profile manager component, they're passing data through this data property. In our case, we'll be passing in the name and also the bio. And they're adding the data property within the object that we set up in the last video. That's our parent component. Now the dialog component, how we retrieve the data within our dialog component is by importing from Angular Material Dialog the mat dialog data, and we bring it into our dialog component from within the constructor. Let's start off within our parent component and set up our data property first. Back inside the user profile manager component, our parent component, where we set up the mat dialog, inside of the open method, our second parameter, we'll set up our data property. And then passing in the user, this user, and we could just pass in the entire user object. And that's the only changes we need to make within the parent component. Now we need to retrieve this data from within the dialog component. We'll set that up next. The first thing we'll do is we'll bring in our constant, and we'll bring that in from Angular Material Dialog. And what the mat dialog data is a injection token. It's not the data itself, it's like a key. Angular uses this key to inject the data. And to do that from within the constructor here, I'll add right below the snippet from the documentation. So now we're injecting the mat dialog data constant. We're giving it a name of data. And from the code snippet, they're just passing in one property name called name. We want to pass in two. I'll add on the end here, bio. And that's going to be a string as well. Now this data property should hold all of our data being passed in from our parent component. Let's use it from within our form. So inside the name here, I'll replace this with this data, and then the name. And then also within the bio, I'll replace this with this data.bio. And this should now populate our form with this data. Let's test this in the browser. Now when we open our dialog, we can see that our fields are populated with the user's profile information. If you're seeing this, it means we've successfully passed data from the parent component into the dialog component and used it to initialize our form. Before we move on to saving any updates, like making changes and saving them, let's clean up this form. We'll clean it up and we'll set that up in the next video.